Warning, thank you in advance. Videos in this channel are based on my personal opinion and experience. If I make a mistake, which will happen eventually, please let me and my subscribers know through comments in our private Discord. Thank you for your time. Hello everyone, this is a Samurai up to level 70 guy. This is Shadowbringers 5.1. Don't forget to like and subscribe, hit that bell for future content. Let's start this off at level 62. We're going to get a Kenki Mastery 2. Increases Kenki gauge when landing weapon skills, all weapon skills, excluding your Iaijutsu weapon skills, of course. And with this, you're going to have kind of an excess of Kenki. Pretty much anytime you use a weapon skill, like you saw there, I get 5, so I got 5 for this. And for my finisher of Kasha, I should get 5, but now I get 10. So 5 again. For Jinpu, I should get 5. And for my Gecko, I get 10. And now finally, I get 5 into 15 instead for Yukikaze. MP gives you 10. AoEs from my Fuga gives you 5. And Mangetsu gives you 10. And Oka gives you 10. So now with these changes, we're going to actually need to burn the Kenki gauge more readily, more efficiently than just, casting Kyuten over and over again, which is definitely not recommended because you'll be missing out on quite a bit of time. But with that, we are going to get our first off-global. It's going to be Hissatsu Shinten. Pretty much, if you haven't noticed it by now, anything that says Hissatsu in front of it requires Kenki. It delivers an attack with a potency of 320. Kenki gauge cost is 25. It is instant cast with an ability off-global cooldown. And you're going to be using this guy weaved, off-global weaved, along with your weapon skills. So pretty much if you have 2 or less targets, more recommended towards boss encounters, you're going to be using this guy. So I have 3 targets here, but let's just imagine the level 80 is non-existent. So we have 2 targets, we're going to be using our Shinten. At level 64, we get our Hissatsu Kyuten. This is the opposite of your Shinten. Pretty much anytime you have 3 or more targets, you're going to be using this guy instead. Delivers an attack with a potency of 150 to all nearby enemies. Kenki gauge cost of 25. It is instant cast with ability off-global, just like the other one. You're going to be off-global weaving this. So we have 3 targets here. We're going to use our Kyuten instead. Level 66, we get Hissatsu Seigan, delivers an attack with a potency of 220, Kenki gauge cost of 15, can only be executed while under the effect of Eyes Open, shares a recast timer with your Merciful Eyes. It is instant cast with ability off global. You're going to be using this pretty much in conjunction with your weapon skills. Make sure that you use your Seigan higher priority to your Shinten, because it does a lot more potency than Shinten per Kenki. You're going to see that on the screen. Now, in terms of the actual Seigan itself, it's pretty much similar to the Merciful Eyes. Even on the telegraphs, go ahead and pop the third eye. We're going to see if the mob does it. There we go. Pop that third eye on the telegraph for pretty much any time you're about to take hits, and then use your Seigan immediately afterwards. If you can time it correctly, or if you can time it just right, you're going to be able to use the third eye into that Seigan roughly around a second. Of course, I mean, with a little bit of practice, just go ahead and use your weapon skills in between. That works just fine. Level 68, this is what makes or break a Kenki Samurai. We're going to get our Hagakure, where it converts Setsu, Getsu, and Ka into Kenki. Each Sen converted increases your Kenki gauge by 10. Pretty much the little icons that we see down here after we finish a said weapon skill combo can only be executed if under the effect of at least one of the 3 statues. It is instant cast with an ability off-global cooldown of 5 seconds. So converting 1 sen gives you 10, goes from 35 to 45. Converting 2 sens gives you 20, goes from 10 to 30. And finally converting 3 sens gives you 30, goes from 15 to 45. Now for the commodity reasons, I may as well include the changes to this. This used to be 20 instead of 10 as soon as it was released, the Samurai and Stormblood. It went from 20 to 5, and then it went back up to 10 during Shadowbringers. But of course, if you're not a Kenki Samurai, you're pretty much just going to be using this during transitions, during boss phases. That's the best time to use this, so you can reset your Kenki gauge, especially if you're at like 2. You may as well reset it, go and get your 1 sen, and then reinitiate with your Hingenbana. Other than that, Kenki Samurais are the ones that more utilize this because it pretty much simplifies the whole meaning behind having to reposition for something like Shisui. You can pretty much ignore the situation of having to blow off your Iaijutsus. You can just, you know, Hagakure all day. And introduced along with our Shadowbringers, we get Ikishoten at level 68. Increases Kenki gauge by 50, can only be executed while in combat. It is instant cast with an ability off global of 60 seconds. And this is pretty straightforward. You need to be in combat, you get instantly 50 Kenki gauge. And let's finish it off with our Stormblood's version of our Hissatsu Guren. I think they increased the potency by 50. Anyway, delivers an attacking potency of 850 to all enemies in a straight line before you. Kenki gauge cost of 50. Shares a recast timer with the other version, which we don't have yet. It is instant cast with an ability off global of 120. If you've noticed that your Ikishoten gives you 50, which that's basically translated to Guren, once you get all of your buffs going. So this is Guren. Make sure all your targets are in a straight line before you. If you're up against a boss fight, you're just going to blow this as soon as you get your buffs going. Now, before I do my rotation, Kenki Samurai is as efficient and as minimalistic as possible that a samurai can be. During single targets, once you've blown off your Iaijutsu on Higanbana, pretty much all your sens go into Kenki. Pretty much during your Shisui, so let's say Shisui into Kasha, and then Gecko, Hagakure, Kasha again. And then we do our rotation for Gecko, and while doing this, just blow off your Shintens. You know, it's pretty much self-explanatory. It doesn't really require a rotation. If you guys want me to add a rotation into the description, just let me know in the comments. But for our friendly Kenki Samurai, the rotation is pretty much mindless. So this is going to be the level 70 with Shisui, single target rotation. Let's start with our MP. Again, I'll be doing this a bit slow so you guys can not get lost. Let's do our MP into our dash Gyouten. Let's do the Hakaze into the Ikishoten. Let's do our Shifu. Let's get into position, or you can use True North. Do our Kasha, Hakaze again. Let's do the Jinpu. Immediately do Kyuten off global into Higanbana. And let's do that Gecko into our Guren. Let's go back to Hakaze. Toss a Shinten, it's optional. Just make sure your Kenki doesn't overflow. And let's do that Yukikaze into Shisui. Again, your True North. Let's do our Kasha, Kyuten, finish with Midare, Kasha again, and Gecko. Again, your optional Shinten. Let's go ahead and do that Yukikaze combo. Finish it off with Kyuten, Midare. So again, with Shisui, I'll make it slow. This is going to be the AoE rotation, AoE Opener / rotation. Let's start off with our MP into our Gyoken. That is how you pronounce that, Gyouten. Let's go ahead and do our Kaze into our Ikishoten. Let's get our buffs going, and only our buffs. So let's do our Shifu, go back and do our Jinpu. Now let's do a Shisui. You can do Mangetsu or Oka. I'm going to start with Mangetsu. So Mangetsu into Guren. And then Oka, we're going to do our Kyuten into that Tenka. Then let's do our Mangetsu again. Let's do our Fuga. You can toss your optional Kyuten. Let's do the Oka. And then let's go ahead and finish it off with our Kyuten into that Tenka once more. Alright, so this is going to be a Samurai up to level 70 guide. This is Shadowbringers 5.1. I'm going to do my the regular Samurai first, and then I'll do a couple clips of the Kenki Samurai, which is completely simplistic on its own terms, but it should open the eyes of a few of my viewers to the possibility. Samurai is pretty simple already, but it can be even simpler. So let's go ahead and start off. Let me just get my buffs. 2 targets, but these guys should die pretty quick. As you can see, I did quite a bit to that one. Do my Shinten. Get my Yukikaze. Nope, never mind. No tank. I wish it were that simple. The boss is literally right there. I've done this dungeon a couple of times, and the boss is, we have to go all the way around this freaking square-shaped dungeon just to get it, just to basically replay to get to the boss. It's ridiculous. Let's dash right in there and get that Yukikaze. And let's blow this guy out of the water. Let me get my buffs. No, no, let me get my buff. Let me get my buff. Come on. 2 targets. Oh, they're dying. Good job, White Mage. They're dying too quickly. So it's the same samurai that we all play up until now. We get our 3 sens for single target. We get 2 sens for multiple targets. Typically 3 or more. So like right here, let me wait for the tank to group them up. And then let's do Tenka. I should be getting my buffs, but I have a lot of Kenki here. Do my Tenka again. And they're pretty much dead. Nope, that's it. They're dead. So Samurai is pretty potent. It's very strong. The only issue is the regular Samurai. You're standing still for a good 15% of the time. And that's not good in my eyes. But obviously it's my opinion. And I stand by it. You guys can play on your own playstyle. Let me get out of here. So I'm get hit by that. Third eye. Can I get the proc? You know? No? I guess it doesn't work on that. And I should probably get my buffs going. Oh, this stuff melts. Alright. We're gonna skip forward. I mean, normal samurai is normal samurai. It's as simple it gets. So this is kind of like extra content. I want to actually like calculate the damage. Obviously, I could be wrong on this. I'm just gonna try to kind of give you guys a good example of how much damage you'll be doing in comparison between the two. Obviously, you can just skip this stuff. There should be an arrow pointing down to the timestamps in the description. You don't need to go through this nonsense. But let's go ahead and start off. So just a good example of like the regular Sen Samurai, just the regular stuff that you would be casting before you toss your Midare. So I'm going to start off fresh. Let's do our Kaze. So I'm just going to imagine that I have all my buffs going. I have a 10% damage bonus. Let's go ahead and just do that. So we do a Kaze that does 200 bonusy. Let's do our Shifu that does 320. Do my True North. So let's go ahead and do our Kasha, that's 480. Let's go back and do our Jinpu. That's another 200. Jinpu, that's 320. Gecko, another 480. And now let's finally do our final Akaze into our Yukikaze. Let's go ahead and toss our Kyuten. May as well toss in the Shinten as well. And then let's go ahead and do that Midare. It's about to die, but I might as well. Tengu, third eye. So as you can see, it's pretty straightforward samurai. Let me pop that Ikishoten. So that's pretty simple, straightforward samurai. The regular samurai, the Sen Samurai. Now let's do our Kenki Samurai. Well, let's get this started. So the Kenki Samurai is the opposite in terms of mobility compared to the regular Samurai. We're going to completely ignore Iaijutsus besides the Higanbana on boss fights, or unless the target is really buffed. Let's get our buffs going. It's pretty similar to the regular Samurai in terms of getting buffs. Let's line them up. So let's turn all of this into Kenki. Get out of that. Sometimes if you get enough time, you can do 2 off globals at once, especially if you have way too much Kenki to burn. Otherwise, just stick to 1 off global. So we get both our Sens, and then we use Hagakure. We do another weapon skill into off global, stuff like that. It's pretty common sense. So here I'm a bit overflowed, so let's go ahead and do 2 instead of 1. Down to a single target. So you kind of get the idea. This really doesn't require a rotation. You're generally just doing, you're going from Gecko to Kasha, or just doing your other 2 versions of the AoE. So now, in retrospect, let's go ahead and do the normal Kenki Samurai build. So let's go ahead and do something like a Kasha. We'll do a Kasha, and then we'll go back and do our Gecko. So that was 200, 320, 480. Now let's go back and do our Gecko. So that was 200, 320, and then 480 for the Gecko. Let's go ahead and do that Hagakure. Let's go ahead and do another Kasha here. So that was 3 weapon skills. We did pretty much the same in retrospect to the other one, 3 weapon skills. There should be 8 weapon skills for the regular Samurai, but of course the 9th is going to be the Midare. So for us, we don't have Midare, but we did just do 9 weapon skills, but we have off globals. The first off global that we did there was going to be Hagakure, but we have, as you can see, an extra 10, but that doesn't really matter all too much. But we do have an extra 3 Shinten, so let's go ahead and do those. So 3 Shintens times 320. Now, finally, is basically the difference between the 2 is just slightly, being the fact that Kenki Samurai does an extra auto attack, because while you're doing your Midare, you cancel auto attack animation. Your animation goes back through once you have your... So I'm going to do a quick Iganbana here. Notice that my character is doing auto attack, so right after the auto attack goes through, right before it does it again, we're going to do Iganbana. And as you can see, I did my auto attack there, but it did cancel the auto attack, so we can toss an extra 100 potency into the Kenki Samurai just because of that. On average, an auto attack from a pretty much anybody does roughly 100 potency, unless you're a caster that uses mana that does not use dexterity or strength. You're going to roughly do somewhere around the ballpark of like 5 to 10 potency, but it's basically negligible, because you're pulling off a lot more off globals than you would normally. It's kind of like playing Monk in a way. Kind of. Well, that was pretty much Samurai up to level 70. This is the Kenki version. And we'll see you guys next time. You should see some numbers. Well, you should have seen some numbers up on the screen indicating the damage. I'm doing things like this just to save a bit more time, so you guys don't have to watch or hear me talk nonsense for long. Alrighty, have a good one.